you got 13, 12 guys you got to go through. You can't remember all that stuff. It's got to be tendencies with them, and their ability to protect the rim, protect the paint is really impressive. They can turn it over a little bit, though, and that's one area where I think Gonzaga can get out a little bit if they can force them to turn it over.
Jay, we were debating on this show about the Duke UCF and did they show them the blueprint? Did they show everyone the blueprint how to beat Duke? I don't think. My position is they didn't show them anything new, really. You already knew that. If you have Taco Fall, it certainly helps. But can Virginia Tech take anything from the UCF game?
Yeah, I mean, Virginia Tech has done that kind of thing where they try to pack the paint. I think that the key for Duke is actually, the key against Duke is actually going to be Virginia Tech's offense, if that makes any sense. It's not just, hey, they got to make shots thing. They have to run efficient offense so that their offense will help their defense. So they can't take quick and bad shots because Duke has 4 different guys on the floor at any one time. When they get a rebound, they can take it themselves. They don't have to outlet it to a point guard. They can rip and go. And when you get R.J. Barrett or Zion Williamson out in the open floor, that's where they're really dangerous. Like, you hear paint points all the time. And sometimes when you hear paint points, you start thinking about, well, they just throw it into Olajuwon and he turns and shoots. That's not what it is. They get their paint points in transition, and they get them off offensive rebounds, and they score off their defense quite a bit because they're very disruptive. And so I think Virginia Tech has to run really good offense. They can spread you because they've got multiple three-point shooters, and then they've got a big guy named Kerry Blackshear who's playing as well as any big guy in the country. And they can play through him. He plays at the high post. He's a good passer. He can face up, and he can make a three. He's got a good shot fake. He can drive it. So he's probably going to be the most important player on the floor for Virginia Tech.
We've talked so much about Duke, but we can't ignore the fact that they struggle as a three-point shooting team. They struggle as a free throw shooting team. And then when they're number 2 in their region is Michigan State. You want to get to the Final Four, you're going to have to go through Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans. What are your thoughts about Michigan State? We haven't talked about them enough, particularly on this show. How formidable of a threat are they to Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett and Duke?
Very, because they've got a great point guard. Cassius Winston is one of the best players in the country. It came down to Winston and Carson Edwards of Purdue, who's a big-time scorer for Big Ten Player of the Year. They both tied for it. Winston wound up getting it. He's 3rd in the nation in assists. They are lethal in transition. Whether it's off a make or a miss, they immediately get an outlet, and they are running. They run a numbered break. They're, again, an excellent rebounding team, which they usually are. So they offensive rebound. They rebound from just about every position. That's going to be one of the keys. Can they out-rebound Duke?
Let me stay with Michigan State for a quick second, just deviating. I haven't spoken to you about this. I knew my reaction to the whole Izzo thing. I thought it was much ado about nothing. I thought it was utterly ridiculous that became a national headline. What was your position with Izzo getting on his player like that?
A little bit different. I don't think it was ridiculous. I have no problem with Tom doing that. I don't think it was a great look. And so I think people reacting saying, I don't approve of that, I think is reasonable and fair. I think most of us who know him and who are in the game said, look, that's the way Tom coaches. He's built relationships. He's got that trust with his players where he can do that. My point was, and I do this at my camp and a coaches development program where you work with young aspiring coaches, I wouldn't recommend that. It's not a good look. I don't know that it is particularly effective. I'm not saying it's horribly ineffective, but I think for old school guys, it works perfectly well. But there needs to be a lot of trust that goes with that because I don't think all players respond.
You're drawing a line between whether or not you recommend it and others that have called it abusive. And I totally understand where you're coming from. Let me get you on a debate that we had, first of all, on the Will Cain Show, 3 to 6 Eastern on ESPN News, right after Stephen A. Smith. Paul Pierce started this debate. He tweeted this. He said, Zion Williamson right now, if he were in the NBA, would be a top 50 player. What do you think of that?
I think he's probably right. I think you put Zion Williamson in the NBA, the things he's done in college, there's never been a player like Zion Williamson on a basketball floor. And before the season started, I had seen him play in Canada for 3 games. Duke took one of those foreign trips, and we put all the games on television. And I'd seen him a little bit in high school, but you just don't get the same feel when you're playing against high school players. When I watched him play over there, I said he's going to be on SportsCenter every night. I mean, he will be the dominant theme in basketball, period. And he has been. I mean, the NBA's reacted to him. You've seen NBA players tweeting at him, and LeBron's going to his games and all that stuff. It's crazy. But there's never been anybody of his size, his athleticism, how nimble he is. His second jump is better than his first and more explosive than his first. and he's an extraordinary passer. Like he can play the complete game. He's a very smart player.
Mac?
And I think you put him in the NBA right now, he would be close to
We had a conversation yesterday about who's the face of the NBA. If you expand it and say who's the face of basketball right now, you could argue it's Zion Williamson.
I definitely think so.
It is right now, and you don't know whether this is. I don't think this is like a Jeremy Lin phenomenon where it's only going to last a short period of time, even though Jeremy Lin's a great player. He's different. I mean, he is a completely different phenomenon than we've ever seen in basketball, and you can't take your eyes off him. He's a gravitational pull to everything that he does, and there's a reason for it. Like, I don't think it's hype. When people say, oh, they're hyping Zion Williamson, like, I get the word, but I don't think it's hype. I think we've just covered what we're seeing, and we say, hey, watch Zion Williamson. Because I didn't even have to explain it after a while. You're saying, just watch. Once you see it, you'll understand. And I believe that was true, that it doesn't take a whole lot of explanation. Once you see it, you're hooked.
And having said all of that, I still have the Tar Heels at the University of North Carolina winning the national championship over Zion Williamson. He will show up. And I was arguing with some family members Saturday. Even though UCF had him on the ropes, and they were celebrating. I'm like, what the hell are you celebrating for? We want Zion Williamson playing until the last possible minute. Make no mistake.
Think about this. Like, Johnny Dawkins is one of my best friends. I talked to him after the game. Yeah. He said, Jay, like, I've never seen anything like him before. And he says, we did a really good job on him. We held him to 50%. And that's like a celebratory effort on him because he shoots 70% from the field. Yeah. He is an unstoppable force. and he wills the ball into the basket, but he's extraordinarily talented. But you can't find one tape on him where he's taken a play off. Not one.
In college,
it's incredible.
In college, the last time we saw a force where we recognized that, was it Shaq? I mean, they didn't have the same success in college because of the team he was on. But I'm trying to think of a comp that way. LeBron didn't go to college.
That's a good question. I would say the one guy that you saw, okay, can't miss like this was probably Durant. When Durant was playing, I think it was 07 that Durant played.
Texas. Yeah.
He was this kind of unstoppable. Second overall, and the argument that he should have been first.
He also went out in the second round.
Yeah. But
Zion is doing something different.
Different, and his numbers are historic.
And I'm a big KD fan, and I'm a Horns fan, but this is different.
Yeah.
Best player, but you might have it right. UNC the best team. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, coming up after the break, will the Yankees end the Red Sox reign on top of the AL East? Jessica Mendoza will tell us after the break. Why does Max Kellerman say that Eli Manning isn't giving Odell Beckham Jr. the credit he deserves? He'll explain at the top of the hour.